Emitters and different effects are very flexible. They can make life easier pretty quickly. So you better know your generators and emitters. Alright, so let's just have a quick look at the emitters. And this is the Effex generator that I have here in the setup. And it generates now smoke and heat and fire in this case. Alright, so let's just try some things. For example, we can change the shape of the emission source. We have several different shape primitives like ellipsoid and a torus, here a cylinder or a cone. So you don't need to use the primitives as sources. You can directly use the shape. In that case, it's much faster than using a polygon-based source. But of course, we can also choose a mesh source. That's no problem. So let's go just set it to mesh, and I have prepared a spherical landscape object here. And what I do now is simply drag and drop it here in the object field, and you can see we directly have the volume now filled with the emission. And that's because we have set it to volume level set here in the mesh voxelization algorithm. We can also set it to contour voxelizing, so we only get emissions at the surface of the object. Well, the advantage is that contour voxelizing is very, very fast. So even with very complex objects and a lot of polygons, it is very quick to calculate. The volume level set is, well, it takes a little longer, but that's all multi-core supported, so the more cores you have, the faster it will be. But it is slower in calculation. So we can emit from the volume or from the surface as we want. But let's have a look at the emission settings themselves. In this case, we have fire generator. Let's just turn off the temperature so we can see the smoke emission. And I just increase it so we can see it better here in the editor. So what I can do now is either change the rate of emission. I can also set a limit inside of the volume. So I can set it to, for example, 0.6, and whatever you have set in the smoke rate emitter, the density of smoke inside of the volume will never get over 0.6 now. All right. Okay, but we can also, because it looks a little bit etchy, we can set a different falloff mode. So we have linear mode, or we can define a custom fall off. So that is very flexible. When we have set it to contour voxelizing, we could also define a material channel that we could use for the emission control. Well, what is nice to mention is also, of course, the noise modulation. So I can easily get a more noisy emission output by using the Cinema 4D noises here, which can of course also be animated. And one of the nice settings now is that you can control emissions without any keyframes. You don't need to keyframe here the smoke rate or the smoke rate just to let it start at a certain point in time. You can simply use the duration setting here. I would like to rescale our source like so. Turn it off again so we can see the smoke. And let's go back to the emission. I can now set a duration for the emission. So how long the emission will last. Let's just use 5 frames. So when I now play this simulation, swoop, it will only emit 5 frames of smoke. So there's no keyframes necessary to control the emissions. You can also set a different start time. So let's put it to frame 5. So it will now start at frame 5 and will last for 5 frames. Just play simulation and swoop, there you go. Well, actually all that is necessary. And we can also set a certain, or modulate the emission rate according to the time. So within 5 frames, how the emission is. So you can already imagine that you can do a lot of stuff with the emission, with the emitters and DPIT Effex.